Today's video is 5 new recipes, and they are all rice-based dinners. And more than just showing you my recipes, I'm going to show you my formula for creating the recipes so you can do the same thing at home. I get lots of requests for rice-based meals, probably because they're so affordable and they're easy to do. And I already have a bunch of these recipes on my channel, but there are literally endless possibilities for flavor combinations. And I'll show you a winning formula for creating your own unique meals, and hopefully you'll feel confident in your cooking, in substituting different seasonings and vegetables, even subbing out or skipping the freeze-dried proteins and using these recipes as side dishes. My hope is that you'll watch my videos, feel inspired to get in the kitchen, and start creating your own favorite meals using the freeze-dried ingredients that you love. Thanks for joining me today, friends. I'm excited to share these new recipes with you. Welcome to the Freeze-Dried Foodie. My name's Kareth. Here you'll find delicious recipes that feature freeze-dried ingredients. Now, I use a lot of Thrivalist, but they've gone out of business, and you can use other brands in my recipes. Lots of us have food stores that we need to know how to cook with. On this channel, I'll show you how I cook with mine. So here's my setup for making my rice meals. I did a video that is similar to this, how to make a fantastic soup. That video went over really well, so I thought I would do the same kind of thing, but for rice dinners. So this in general is the formula I'm going to use. You don't have to pause the video or write anything down. I will put the exact recipes down in the description box below this video. But this right here will give you an overview of what those recipes are going to look like. Every single one of the jars is going to have these components. All right, let's get down to business. I guess the most important thing you want to consider when making a rice dinner is the kind of rice you're going to put in your jar. I'm using a medium grain rice, but you could totally use a long grain or basmati, whatever you like. You'll also need to decide what kind of protein you're going to put in there, so some sort of freeze-dried protein. I'm going to be making pint-sized jars, which will serve 2 people once or 1 person twice. You're also going to need some seasonings. Everyone is going to get salt, pepper, all-purpose seasoning, and some sort of bouillon. And also, everyone is also going to get freeze-dried onions and freeze-dried garlic. Now, you might want to choose some sort of a sauce. It depends on what you want to make as to what sauce you will choose. I do have copycat recipes for those on my channel. And then depending on the recipe, you might want to add some cheese, but definitely you're going to add some sort of vegetables to each of these jars. And it depends on what you're going for as to which vegetables you choose. You could also use home freeze-dried vegetables or any brand that you enjoy. It's totally up to you what you put in these jars, but this is a formula that is going to give you a really yummy rice dinner. All right, I'm going to show you 5 different recipes. These are all recipes that I just made up for this video. I've never done any of these before. I just know the formula, so I know it's going to work well. I've made recipes similar to this on my channel for years, so I knew that this type of formula would work well. And since I only need about 2 servings per jar, I'm using pint-sized jars, and these are the measurements that you need for a pint-sized jar for 2 servings. If you want 4 servings, then just double all the measurements and use quart-sized jars. Okay, so in the bottom of these pint jars, I have put 2/3 of a cup of medium grain rice, and now I'm adding 2/3 of a cup of some sort of protein. I'm using freeze-dried chicken for 3 of the dinners, and then I'm going to add some freeze-dried ground beef in the other 2. You could choose other protein, the freeze-dried sausage crumbles, you could do freeze-dried beef dices. It's up to you. These are just the proteins that I thought would go well. All right, let's start with the chicken. To all of these jars, I'm adding a tablespoon of freeze-dried onions and a teaspoon of freeze-dried garlic. The garlic I got from Ready Harvest. That's the food label of Thrivalist, and I will link to that below. It is fantastic freeze-dried garlic. I love it. I'll put my shopping link below. All right. And then one of the jars is going to get some extra onions in the form of green onions. I'm going to start with that one. Let's build this jar. I'm calling it a Caribbean curried chicken and rice. So right now we've got rice, chicken, a couple kinds of onions, garlic, and I just added a sauce mix. So if you're going to put a sauce in here, you want about 1/4 cup of it. So I did 1/4 cup of some velouté sauce. That's a chicken gravy. And then to that, I thought it would be really good if I added some coconut milk. I just thought these flavors sounded really good together. I thought that they would taste great together. We've had some curried Caribbean rice before, and it had some black beans and some corn and some jerk seasoning in it. Actually, it was very, very tasty. And I thought, yeah, I'm going to make a rice dinner that kind of resembles what I've had before. I have freeze-dried corn. I have the instant black beans. I thought it would go great. All right, these are the seasonings that all of the jars get, no matter what else goes in there. So 1/2 teaspoon of bouillon, and then 1/4 teaspoon of kosher salt, black pepper, and some sort of all-purpose seasoning. I like the Goya adobo because it's heavy on the garlic powder. It's got some oregano in there, some turmeric, some stuff like that. Anyway, all of the jars are going to get those 4 seasonings for sure. And then, depending on the flavor that you're going to make your jar, you add other seasonings in with it. So for this one, I added some curry powder because that's the flavor I wanted in my Caribbean curried chicken and rice. So do you get the idea? I hope this is like not too much information for you, but that's the jar you could store on your pantry shelf. And if you try it and like it, you could make an assembly line and make like 5 of those jars at once. And you just have to get out the ingredients that one time and make up 5 jars at a time. It goes a lot faster. All right, moving on. This one is going to be a cheesy salsa chicken and rice. So I'm using a cheese sauce for my sauce mix. And then once again, this is going to get the same generic seasonings that I put in all of my chicken and rices, which again is some sort of bouillon powder. I use chicken bouillon because I've got chicken in this rice dish. And then I've got an all-purpose seasoning and salt and pepper. So now everybody has that same seasoning. Moving on to the vegetables. Since I wanted this to be like a salsa chicken and rice, I thought, okay, what vegetables are in salsa? I've got freeze-dried tomatoes, freeze-dried green chilies. I'm adding some freeze-dried jalapenos, freeze-dried cilantro. It's already got freeze-dried onions in there. So to me, that would be like salsa, okay? So that's why I chose those vegetables. Now for the specialty seasoning, I'm adding some cumin to this because I thought it'll have kind of that taco flavor to it. I also wanted some extra cheese because this is a cheesy salsa chicken. So I powdered some freeze-dried, I think it's a combination of cheddar and pepper jack. I put that in the blender, powdered it up, and then put it in there. Now all of these jars need to get packed down pretty well. So use the back of a measuring cup, pack it down in there. And I had some extra room at the top of my jar. So I added some more freeze-dried tomatoes. It was just like, there was room for it, so I did it. So if you pack all of these jars, if you pack them in well, then the recipe is going to work because the proportion of water to the rest of the ingredients will be correct. So you can add more of whatever vegetable you like in your jar. It will work if everything is packed in there. All right, this next recipe I'm calling MeMaw's chicken and rice. Not that I have a MeMaw myself, but like pretty much everybody in the South knows somebody who has a MeMaw, okay? And MeMaw is just my term for a sweet Southern grandma. And at MeMaw's house, I'm pretty sure everything had a can of cream of something soup in it, okay? So in this recipe, I've added, for my sauce mix, I've added my cream of soup mix because it's gonna mimic that cream of mushroom or cream of chicken, something like that. And then I'm going to add some more vegetables that I think MeMaw would have put in her chicken and rice casserole. And so I've got some zucchini in there. I'm adding some freeze-dried mushrooms. You can add whatever freeze-dried vegetable you think MeMaw would put in her chicken and rice casserole. And it could be different. Your MeMaw might put broccoli in hers. I don't know. But that's what you want to do is fill that jar with some sort of freeze-dried vegetables. I'm also going to add a tablespoon of some dehydrated carrots here. You could use freeze-dried if that's what you have. Just so your jar is really full, you've packed it down, then the recipe is going to work. So I hope you're getting the sense of what I'm doing here. I'm filling the jar with a lot of very similar things, and then I'm customizing the flavors to make the flavor profile that I'm interested in. Okay, moving on. I've got a Korean ground beef and rice that I'm going to make right here. So this jar is going to get the same seasonings that the other jars got. It's just that I used beef bouillon instead because I put beef in here. All right, now I'm going to make a specialty sauce for like an Asian flavor profile. I've got soy sauce powder, that pourable brown sugar. I've also got some green onions that are going to go in here. I'm putting some freeze-dried ginger. And then I've got these gochugaru, these chili flakes. They're Korean chili flakes. It's optional, but they're very good in here. They're not actually very spicy with heat. They're just full of flavor. You'll need some sort of an umami powder, and I make my own out of freeze-dried mushrooms that I powder up in the blender. And then I'm just going to fill that jar with whatever I think would be really good as far as vegetables go. I'm going to fill it with green beans and red bell peppers. I actually forgot the onions and the garlic, y'all, in this one, but I did remember later, and I added it before I cooked this. So yeah, I forgot to add those onions and the garlic that everybody gets. All right, for this next recipe, I wanted to make something that would resemble a bolognese, like a beef bolognese, like a spaghetti, but instead of the pasta, I'm going to have rice. This ended up being my favorite one of all of them. So I've got the same sort of seasonings. I've got the onions and the garlic. I've got a tomato sauce this time because I'm trying to make it taste like a bolognese, right? And then I added some heavy cream powder because bolognese has some cream added to it. Sometimes you could add instant milk. But now it's time for the vegetables, and I'm going to add the mirepoix. So I've got celery and carrots in there, and then I already have onions, and I'm going to fill the rest of that jar up with some more vegetables. So I'm adding zucchini. You could add mushrooms, whatever you think would be good with the bolognese sauce, that flavor of the tomato sauce. All right, and I also blended up some mozzarella and Parmesan cheese because, you know, spaghetti bolognese, I think that would be delicious with it. And yeah, this ended up being just such a great flavor profile. So be sure to pack that down with the underside of a measuring cup. Make sure everything is in there good and full so that the proportions work out for the recipe. You can get your lid and your ring on there. If you're going to store these for a long time, go ahead and put an oxygen absorber at the top of these. But if you're going to use these within the year, you probably don't even need it. All these things are either freeze-dried or shelf-stable, and they should be just fine. If you enjoy cooking with freeze-dried foods, please consider owning my cookbooks. They're both available on Amazon in paperback and as a digital download on my website, thefreezedriedfoodie.com. I'll link to both below. If you own freeze-dried food and want to be able to cook delicious meals with it, then you'll love having my cookbooks. They're loaded with completely shelf-stable meals and mixes. And although I wrote the recipes with Thrive Life ingredients in mind, you can use any brand, including home freeze-dried foods. All right, back to the recipe. All right, whenever it's time for you to cook these, you'll just get out a medium skillet or pot. And as you can tell, I'm using all of the available burners on my stove. I'm going to do 4 at a time, and then I have to do the 5th one at the end after I take these off. But anyway, everybody gets the same treatment. It's the same thing that goes into all of these. It's 2 1/4 cups of water. And then after you add the water, you just want to give everything a really good stir. And after you give everybody a nice and good stir, then you can get the heat going. And I like to put these at about a medium high until it starts to boil. And don't really walk away. Just stick around, stir it a few times, make sure nothing is sticking. And then after it comes to a boil, then you can put a lid on there, lower the heat, probably down to like a 1.5 or a 2, something like that, and just let it simmer for about 25 minutes. Sometimes the rice, I've noticed, takes a little bit longer to get tender because the sauce is in there. It's a little viscous, it's a little thicker, so it takes a little bit longer to get to a place where it's tender. But yeah, after about somewhere around 22 to 25 minutes, the rice should be tender. All the vegetables that you put in there should be nice and rehydrated and cooked all the way through and tender. And then any meat that you put in there, it should also be tender at that point in time. So if you're using freeze-dried chicken, whether it's the slices or the dices, or like I use the pulled chicken from Freeze Dry Wholesalers, I like that pulled chicken. It's like rotisserie chicken. So it doesn't matter what kind of protein you put in, all of it should be good and rehydrated and tender at that point after that long of a cooking process. Okay, so I just love the way these look. That's the cheesy salsa chicken. You can see those tomatoes and those green chilies and jalapenos in there. It just looks so good to me. Here's the curried Caribbean chicken and rice. And of course, you've got black beans and corn. It smelled so good, y'all. The coconut milk powder I put in there, along with the curry powder. Oh my goodness, it smelled so good. I think you could also use jerk seasoning if you wanted it spicy. Okay, so here's the fifth one. I mean, I didn't have that many burners on my stove, so I'm making the beef bolognese rice, or whatever you want to call it. I just made these names up, y'all. So anyway, it's going to cook and bubble away on my stove while I serve up the rest of these. I just served them with a salad. Here's that Korean beef one, and just look how much thicker it is now that it's sat there for 5 minutes. Yeah, so that rice is going to absorb that sauce, and it's just going to be so, so nice. You can top these with whatever you like. I put cilantro and a wedge of lime on a couple of these. And then the other two, I put some scallions on there. So you can top it with whatever you want to top it with, or you can skip that all together and just go ahead and dig in. And let me tell you what, I enjoyed this taste test. Like I said earlier, I made up these recipes. I just started thinking, what flavors go well together? What could I put in these that would make these taste good? They just turned out fantastic. Every single one of them made the cut. So I'll write down in the description box the recipe for every single one of these. This first one that I'm sampling, it's the cheesy salsa chicken. It was fantastic. It was probably in the top 2 of my favorites for today because it's a little spicy, those jalapenos and green chilies, and the cheese in there is just wonderful. I love a cheesy rice. All right, the second one is the curried Caribbean, I don't even know what I call it, Caribbean curried chicken and rice. Once again, that little squeeze of lime is so good in here because the acidity just brings a brightness to it. If you don't have fresh lime, you could always sprinkle in a couple packets of true lime when you cook this, and it's just very, very good in here. The coconut milk powder is so yummy. I'm really glad that I added that, but the star of the show is the curry powder. It's fantastic. I love the sweet crunch from the corn. And then those black beans, I mean, they just make everything creamy and wonderful. Okay, the third recipe was my last chicken and rice recipe. And this is what I called MeMaw's chicken and rice. And y'all, this is comfort in a bowl. So if you close your eyes, I bet you could imagine what this tastes like, right? It's got that cream of soup mix in there, and it tastes like something would have come out of MeMaw's oven. You know how MeMaw, she would put a can of cream of chicken or can of cream of mushroom in all her casseroles. That's what this tastes like. It's so creamy, so good. I love the carrots in there, and those mushrooms were so, so tasty. All right, next is my first one of the beef and rice dishes that I did. I'm calling this the Korean ground beef and rice. The flavor profile is so delicious. The Asian kind of flavors in there with the soy sauce, the brown sugar, that umami powder that I made from the powdered mushrooms. So good in here. You can taste the ginger. I actually really enjoyed the green beans and the red bell peppers in this. Okay, the last recipe, this was my favorite one. It ended up so good. And I think it's because it was spot on for that bolognese flavor. This is my beefy bolognese and rice. And I mean, I nailed it as far as the flavor profile. The mozzarella and Parmesan in there, fantastic. The tomato sauce that I put in there, it just tastes so, so good. I loved the beef. I actually used a beef and sausage mixture in this one, and I did blitz it in the blender so it kind of melted into the rest of the rice dish. You really couldn't see big pieces of beef in there, but if you don't want to pulse it in the blender, you could just leave it in the little nuggets. It would be fantastic. This one was my favorite. It was so, so tasty. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for sticking with me today. I hope you feel like you weren't just drinking out of a fire hydrant with all the information I gave you. I hope it was helpful to you. And I hope it just helps you to have a little confidence in the kitchen, to feel like, yeah, I could do this. If you like any of these flavor profiles that I've showed you today, make that exact recipe and see if you don't just fall in love. If you really like them, then like I said, make an assembly line and make 4 or 5 of these jars at a time. And you will be so thankful you have these on your pantry shelf when you come home and you're tired and you are hungry and you just don't want to spend a lot of time in the kitchen messing with, cooking a big meal. This is going to give you like big meal flavor with very minimal effort. Well, thank y'all so much for watching. Thank you for spending some of your day with me today. I do appreciate you. If you don't mind, please hit the thumbs up button. It just always helps my channel when y'all leave me a comment and hit the like button. And don't forget, I will put my link down below for my cookbooks if you're interested. I do like to end my videos with a verse of the day, and today's verse comes from the book of Revelation, and it's chapter 4, verse 11. It reads, "Worthy are you, our Lord and our God, to receive glory and honor and power, for you created all things, and because of your will they exist and were created." Amen. All right, guys. Well, have a blessed week and a wonderful day. And until next time, y'all take care and keep thriving.